Hello, and welcome to Recruiting and Hospitality from Cater.com. In each episode, we get top names from hospitality to discuss all things related to people management and retention development across the sector. Today, we're tackling a subject matter that is vital, that is so important to the success of any teams and business within the sector. We already know the perception of hospitality across the UK is that it's celebrating long hours, low pay, and all the rest of it. Well, we've got a team of experts today that will tackle just how we can embrace mental well-being, promote it, change it, inspire people to be kind and look after themselves. Now, when we thought about this subject, we couldn't think of any better experts to talk about mental well-being than our panel today. Join me in welcoming Craig Prentice, founder and director at MUM. Welcome, Craig. Giuliana Vittiglio, head of fundraising and marketing at Hospitality Action, and Olajide Alabi, brand equality, inclusion, and well-being partner at Turtle Bay. We wanted to go straight into Walk for Wellbeing and Craig. Craig, after years in hospitality, in 2020, you created and launched Walk for Wellbeing. Tell us what got you into that.
I guess it started with a very simple idea of bringing people together. The times were, can we mention the COVID word, pandemic? So people were very separated, very isolated, very stressed and anxious. And I had the idea of, I guess, bringing people together or attempting to raise awareness around mental health, to have a sense of belonging together at what was quite a difficult time. I've sat on the fundraising board at Hospitality Action for a number of years. So the charity had decided to switch the focus to grant giving to help those people in need. So hundreds of grants were given out. But obviously the time was very pressured from a finance perspective for people. So rather than go full hog with asking people for money, we wanted to do something that was really subtle and more about well-being, encouraging people to come together, to talk, to share, but then fundraise at the same time. So it was a very soft fundraising event initially. And I think the first year we raised about £17,000, which was great, thanks to a lot of people and the support of partners, and Cater.com have been with us since the beginning, which has been fantastic. And it just evolved from there, really. We did 13,000 in the second year because times were much more challenging for people from a financial perspective. And then last year we did £92,500, which was incredible considering, people are still financially aware of expenditure. It's got a very special vibe to it. It's a very special project. Whilst it was my idea, the project has come together thanks to the help of many, and there are tons of people involved in it. A great organising committee, the charity, partners such as Cater.com and People Bank this year, and then, like I say, a committee full of people representing various hospitality companies and businesses. So there's a true spirit with the walk, and I say to people, it's much more than a walk. It is very much a community event.
What are you setting out to achieve this year, in this fourth year?
So we want to be bigger and better this year. We've started well. We're on I think 300 sign-ups already. Last year we had a total of 400. So with 2 months to go, we've got 300 sign-ups and £32,000-ish in the bank, which is great. So we've got a good start. And I think what in terms of what we're looking to achieve, bringing people together, giving people an opportunity or giving different people from different areas of hospitality an opportunity to meet and mingle, raising awareness for well-being, mental health, and of course the charity and the work that they do, which I think a lot of people don't know about, which hopefully G will share in a bit. But there's a lot of wonderful work that goes on there from a great team, and I'm really proud to be able to support.
I mean, that's incredible work, and I'm sure it will be a success. We're in partnership with you again this year. We'll be out there walking with you, which we'll talk about in a moment. But back to that report the study we just looked at, 62% of respondents believe the hospitality industry does not do enough for the physical and mental health of employees. How do you think we can change that?
I agree there's a lot of work to be done. I think there's a lot of good going on behind the scenes. There are a lot of companies doing great things and initiatives, but I think there's a lot of work to be done. And I think something like the walk is somewhere super simple to start. It's got to start somewhere, and there's got to be action that's taken. So I'm a big believer in, excuse the pun, walking the walk, rather than the talk, and I think sometimes we can get distracted in hospitality with the talk as opposed to the walk, and something simple like Walk for Wellbeing is a great start.
I am very sure it will be a massive success. Give us some details around dates and times. What happens next? How can people get involved?
So this year we're running the event across 2.5 weeks, so from the 30th of September to the 15th of October. Anyone can take place wherever they are in the country, so at any time. So it's all about challenging themselves, people challenging themselves and taking part wherever they are across the country. And then this year we've got 5 hosted walks in London, Bath, Bristol, Birmingham, Manchester, Glasgow. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Sounds incredible. Thank you. We're behind you 100% with that. And then Hospitality Action, Giuliana. Hospitality Action was established in 1837 and has since offered vital assistance to all who work or have worked in hospitality. Tell us more about Hospitality Action.
We are the UK trade charity for everybody who works in hospitality. Whether you're England, Scotland, Wales, Northern Ireland, we're here for you. You could work in a bar, you could work in a hotel, you could be front of house, you could work in events, work in a nightclub, school dinner lady. We're here to support you, whatever the difficulty. Our tagline is we've got you, and we'd like to think that we really have got our people.
Incredible. And how have employers responded to your work?
Yeah, very positively. As Craig said, perhaps awareness of us isn't at the levels that we would like. We are a very old charity. I think during the pandemic, a lot more people became aware of us and what we were doing, and a lot more people turned to us for help and for support. Sadly, applications for assistance, they do remain through the roof from people from all walks of life, people of all ages, people from all roles, people from all sectors. So we're here to support in any way that we can.
What are some of your biggest successes today?
Oh, do you mean fundraising wise?
Fundraising wise and getting people on board.
Oh, well, Walk for Wellbeing, huge success, £92,000 raised last year alone. I would like to think we could do bigger and better. During the pandemic, we released a cookbook. That was a personal highlight of mine. We were number 2 in the Sunday Times bestseller hardback nonfiction, which I love, for our Chefs at Home cookbook, which you can still get on Waterstones and Amazon. And our lovely gala chef dinners and things, the events was a core part of our fundraising. With the pandemic, obviously they fell to the wayside, but it's been so great to be back to the floor. There's a huge event in our industry, which Caterer.com have kindly sponsored and supported in the past. So Back to the Floor is a real jewel in our crown, but all of our fundraising galas and events are something that we're all really proud of.
And those are fabulous events. I've been to those.
They're so fun.
Tell me about the rest of the year. What have you got lined up for?
We have a polo day in the southwest in Beaufort Polo Club, so we're all looking forward to that. That's our first one since 2019, just because of the pandemic. Then we have a chef's dinner up in Manchester, and we have one here in London on the 6th of November at Nobu. So it's going to be really special. And obviously we are planning ahead and looking forward to next year. The walk will be back, I'm sure. Next year our gala dinners will be back. So there's all sorts of different ways that people can get involved and support us.
Exciting. You've mentioned applications going through the roof. Mental health is that unseen destructive force that goes through workforces and completely unsettle everything. How do you see the industry reacting to mental health, and what do you think we can do more of?
Well, I can tell you that mental health issues and well-being, they don't discriminate. You could be at any role within the sector and you could still have issues. 1 in 2 people who come to us for support, they reference mental health in their application. Could be depression, anxiety, stress-related. I'd like to think that there is more awareness of these issues in the industry. Nowadays, it's 2023. Things don't need to be so covered and so hidden away. We have a 24/7 24/7 helpline, which is open every single day of the year. It's free to access and it's in over 170 languages. So language doesn't need to be a barrier if you're in need of support. Hopefully people will know that we are here to support. We've got so many great resources. Our online advice hub. We facilitate face-to-face and over-the-phone counselling sessions. So there's lots of different ways and lots of different support that people can access through us.
We're so proud of the work you do because you're raising awareness, well, all of you, to a subject that a lot of people can't visualize. And so it's always swept under the carpet and not really brought to the forefront. And Olajide, you have been for years an absolutely incredible ambassador for all things well-being, equity, diversity, and inclusion. I love your journey. I love your story. And we've looked at one of your websites and one of your things, which I've just copied, which is I can empathize with marginalized groups, having been a part of one all my life, and learning how to steer myself in the workplace to fit in. What I am most passionate about achieving is that the workplace is a place everyone can thrive, and it is not a place any marginalized group feels they should dim their light. What a powerful statement.
Who said that?
Yours truly, yourself. And so Olajide is the brand equality, inclusion, and wellbeing partner at Turtle Bay. In 60 seconds, I know we'll go over that. Tell me about your journey, your incredible journey.
I mean, I worked in hospitality for over 20 years in different roles, from front of house to back of house to management, hotels, bars, restaurants, did the works, and then stepped into the wonderful world of recruitment where I met yourself. Worked in recruitment in hospitality for 10 years. And it's such a difference from working frontline in a restaurant or a hotel where you feel like everyone's different and actually you feel like you're part of one big team and everyone respects everyone, to working in an office environment where it's quite a white space most of the time. It's quite a male white space and actually felt really out of place. I felt like I stuck out like a sore thumb. Got told several times to basically dim my light, don't laugh so loud, change the way that you speak. And actually then I found this passion for wanting to change the way that the workplace was, the language that's used in the workplace, the way that we treat people in the workplace. And I found my passion for diversity, equity and inclusion. And then basically fell into learning more, researching more, reading more, and just kind of understanding different aspects of different marginalized groups, different communities, and set up my own business in 2020. God, I should know that. Called Sisu, and Sisu was born out of a place of actual frustration. And I always tell people that, it was birthed from a place of frustration, but also trauma. Working in an environment where you constantly feel like you can't be yourself, or you're constantly being challenged for the way that you are, or the way that you communicate, or, the color of your skin, the people that, your sexuality, your gender, whatever it is tiresome. And actually that trauma was what then led to me wanting to change the world and go out and educate businesses and educate people on how to just make sure that we do the right thing. And that's how I ended up working with Turtle Bay. I actually started consulting with them in 2020 as well. And then they asked me to come on full time, and now I'm the equality, inclusion and wellbeing partner there.
Well, more than 60 seconds, but just wow, trauma. And that's just one side of the story. There are many people who haven't got a platform to share and to come away from that trauma to help other people. There are people still going, how do I speak? When do I speak? What happens if I speak? What are the repercussions of me speaking? So we can't celebrate enough the work you're doing. CEOs and owners of businesses get involved because this is such a important topic that it needs to come from top down, where it seems to sometimes be from mid-level down, as opposed to there's a disconnect, I think, from CEO. Do you guys find that? It's very hard going into a conversation with CEO. They go and speak to HR or speak to my hiring leaders. Do we see a big opportunity here for getting CEOs in a room to really tackle this conversation?
I always say that it starts with the intention, doesn't it? So you've got to have buy-in from a complete leadership team. So it starts with the intent and then obviously the action, right? And I think you used quite an interesting word, journey, which it is. I think a lot of people are quite scared of even starting because it is a bit of a minefield, isn't it? In terms of, the different types of people that we have in our industry. So it can be a bit of a minefield, but I think, that intention, I think also including the team members as well, and having the team members have a seat at the table. So shadow boards, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, it's really important when you said there about team members. I think just because it has to come from the top doesn't mean that you can't get team members to champion it within the business. I think what's worked really well at Turtle Bay is that we have an E&I team who are championing the work. So if I have an initiative that I want to run within the business, I'll go to the champions and ask them if it's okay or if it needs adapting. And then once we've signed off, I'll get them to shout about it. So for instance, yesterday, this last couple of weeks, the E&I team have been really challenging them to champion more stuff and use the tools that we've got and the resources. And I've created a glossary because I think language plays such a huge part in understanding things and understanding people. And we created a glossary of different terminology that people can use. And one of the team members in the E&I team has started using that as part of his management meeting. So he'll pull 2 pages on the glossary and use that as the center point of conversation for their management meeting. And he told me that he did it this week, and I was like, please can you shout about it on our internal comms so that everyone else can learn from that. And actually having people within your business that can really shout about, even if it's the smallest things that they're doing, and it's from the E&I or wellbeing space, just really helps then other people go, oh, if he's doing it, then maybe we should do it, or maybe we'll adapt it and do it this way. So that really, really helps having those champions.
There is a link between equality, diversity, and inclusion and mental well-being, and we need to make that connection. Tell us what that is.
I'll give you a little scenario here. So I like to do a little scenario. So basically, I come into work every day and I stumble into work, and I've actually come from home, and my living situation isn't great. But I come into work thinking that I'm gonna have a bit of respite. But actually, the team don't include me in conversations. They sometimes use language that is actually really quite damaging for me, whether that is racist slurs or homophobic slurs. And there's loads of banter around with the team, but actually the banter isn't really banter, it's kind of bullying. And I see signs of maybe there's a bit of sexual harassment going on with the other members of the team. And actually the working environment just isn't that inclusive for everyone. And so I leave work every day feeling fairly stressed and fairly sad and miserable. And I go home to a home life that isn't great. And actually my whole mental health and my whole well-being is completely affected because of the working environment I've left. And so actually, if you're doing that day to day, your mental health and your well-being, your physical health is absolutely shattered. And I think people forget that there's such a huge correlation between if you don't feel included, you don't feel like you belong, you don't feel seen, you don't feel valued, and that happens on a continuous cycle for 5-6 days a week, and you're going home, that's going to affect your mental health. That's going to affect the way that you sleep. It's going to affect the way that you eat. It's going to affect the way that you do anything around your well-being. So yeah, there's just a huge correlation around feeling included and feeling like you belong and being treated right to the way that you deal with your well-being. Yeah,
Giuliana, so there is a perception in hospitality that the golden employee is the one that works long hours. They're the ones that chef that's going to come in. I've literally heard this week that there were hiring leaders who did not hire great chefs. We've looked through the CVs and they worked there. It was an impeccable record. However, the feedback from the hiring leader was, when I spoke to that chef, he can only work every other weekend, and never got the job. Because the celebration of excellence in our industry is you've got to be that robust. You've got to be working and giving everything. So there's a lot of burnout, unreported burnout, I would say, in the sector. How do you know when you've reached a point?
Well, firstly, I would say I've got a lot of respect for that chef who stuck to his guns and say, no, I can only work every second weekend, or these are my hours, and we need more people like that, and more leaders so you can follow by example. If you work in an events team and you see your manager is emailing at 9 o'clock at night, that's not a good example to set to team, it's all very good. Yeah, like you said before, Craig, talking the talk. You also have to walk the walk, do the actions when you're at work as well. So set a good example for your teammates as well. And it's really crucial not to reach burnout. It's a shame. A lot of people come to us at the charity when they are on that door. I mean, they have nowhere else to turn. But we are here throughout the entire struggle. You can give us a call, you can send us an email any time in the journey that you need support from us. You don't have to wait until the last minute to seek help and to ask for support.
And on that note, Craig, what are some of the signs, would you say, of burnout, or somebody experiencing a mental health, deprivation or something like that? What are some of the signs to look for?
I guess like a lot of people, I've been there myself. Thinking back to that time, my mental health struggles were as a result of grief and loss. The signs I would say are disassociation, distance, unusual behaviour, disconnect. I think that was mainly kind of what I displayed, as well as kind of not looking after myself, and I think you were saying about, the whole well-being piece and food, diet, alcohol was a big one for me, 4 and a bit years ago. And I kind of stuck my head in the sand and, wanted to run away. But I think that's how I dealt with it. I think there's a whole list, isn't there, really? It's a very personal thing, but certainly that was my own case.
Wow. Well, one of the other stats is here is only 1 in every 10 workers stated that they had access to mental health awareness training. So that's quite alarming. Where do we start as an industry? If you were all meant to give a bit of advice to one each, to an employer going, this is overwhelming. There's a lot going on here in this subject. A lot of it's invisible. How do I tackle the invisible? But such destructive thing that if not tackled, what would you say your top advice to an employer that just needs to get it right but hasn't got a clue where to start, where to look?
I think it's not being afraid to tackle it head on. I think it's starting small and looking at your options. I think mental health first aid training is fantastic. I think it's great for awareness, but it's not everything, and it's very much, I think if you take a step back and look at the belonging piece and how you encourage people to show up, turn up for work, feel part of the team, and feel like they can be themselves, I think that's a very simple way to start.
We love that. Creating a sense of belonging. People love to feel like they belong. And actually, there's a real value in feeling like you belong. So that's great. Thank you for that. Giuliana.
I would say it's the small things, checking in, asking, how was your weekend? Sometimes you can be so busy and so stressed out yourself, and it's about making time to stop, to have breaks, to speak to colleagues one-on-one. That's why things like the walk are so good. It takes you outside of the work environment, so you can relate on a one-to-one human level. And it's also, I think, important that, absolutely do the mental health first aid training and courses so everybody's up to date and knows what to do, that kind of sense, but also to look after your mental health first aiders, to look after the people in HR as well. They're not robots, they need support too. So it's about having those kind of support structures in place as well.
And I think also, just jumping onto that, I think it's trying to avoid the words mental health and well-being as much as possible. I don't know what you would say on this, but I went into a 5-star hotel last year and did a bit of a talk and shared with their mental health first aid team, and they were talking about the challenges that they had, and they were talking about their team members not being engaged for Wellbeing Wednesdays. So and it was quite evident from the conversation, and I'm sure they won't mind me mentioning this, but it was quite evident that everything had a label with well-being on it. And for me, if you're having to use the term well-being or mental health to look after your team, I think there's something quite wrong in that in itself. So I think try and avoid it as much as possible and just look after people.
Great advice. And Olajide, what is yours?
I agree with what Craig just said. Like, I think we forget that we're all just humans, right? And this, like, the whole DEI and well-being space, unfortunately, does create a lot of labels, unnecessary labels sometimes. And actually those labels continue to create stereotypes, and those stereotypes are from biases and stuff. So I think you're right, if we can stay away from labels as much as possible, then and just treat everyone right, that and do the right thing when we can, then that's the best way forward. But I also think that from what's worked well for us at Turtle Bay especially is, we've not called it our well-being strategy, we've called it our Bay Kind strategy, because it's just about being kind. And one thing that I think really works well is I think it's Maya Angelou who said, once we know better, we can do better. And I think as long as we are able to provide people with the resources and the tools to be able to look after their own mental health or well-being, then I think that's a good starting point. I think if you're able to provide them with resources, whether that's a hub of videos, of reading material, access to an EAP, access to counselling, therapy, all that kind of stuff, so people can actually make their own choices to look after themselves, that's a good starting point. Because once people can understand that, well-being isn't just about your mental health, it is about your physical, your financial, there's loads of aspects of well-being, and actually getting people to understand those different pockets and giving them the tools to be able to look after those different pockets, I think is a good starting point.
Well, we're in a staffing crisis. We still are. We still, with the market, we still have lots of vacancies unfilled, and we're still having areas where we just can't find talent. And it's interesting because 45% of respondents stated that they would not recommend working on hospitality. This is from the Royal Society for Public Health Service Without a Smile survey. 45% respondents would not recommend the industry that we love so much, that we spend our entire lives working across. We're still seeing people, hiring leaders saying, you're not going to cut it because you can't do 12 hours a day. We're still seeing mentalities around be flexible working and I would have dropped the kids off, so I'm going to come and leave a bit earlier. Well, you can't. And we're seeing a lot of that. And we've got three amazing, incredible people here who are championing the remote, even if we have a semblance of change. And these people are fighting for that. Craig, we love the work you do. We're going to be supporting you in this walk. We're there. The entire caterer team are behind you. We love the work Hospitality Action do. We always have. Bring on those dinners and dine cooking. We love all of that. Great stuff. And Olajide, you have always been that inspiring voice of change. And we just can't celebrate you all enough. So thank you for your incredible work. And I really do hope people listening today will go, hang on a minute, we haven't got it right. And if we've got it right, we celebrate that. But if there are areas where we feel that we're not being kind, let's maybe not say well-being strategy, but being just simple things as being kind. How do we monitor that? How do we look at the effects of having a workforce all together looking after each other? That is what we're aiming for. So thank you all for listening. And please follow, Craig, how can we follow what you're doing? How can our listeners follow?
The walk is very much has been embraced as a Hospitality Action event this year. So we've officially gone over to your channels on social media, which is fantastic. So it's at Hospitality Action.
Yeah.
On Instagram at Hospitality Action, and on Twitter at HospAction, or just visit our website hospitalityaction.org.uk or walkforwellbeing.org as well.
Turtle Bay is Turtle Bay. You can visit Turtle Bay website, and actually if you want to follow Turtle Bay's journey within E&I and wellbeing, we're very transparent and we share a lot of stuff on our website. If you want to contact Sisu, this is Sisu on Instagram, on LinkedIn, and our website is www.thisissisu.co.uk.
And our socials is at caterer.com, at caterer.com. Thank you for listening, and we really hope you've got some nuggets from this inspiring group of incredible people today. Thank you for listening.